Cool. Good day, my name is Ruwayda Redfearn. I'm a chartered accountant and I am the CEO of Deloitte Africa. Well, I was born in Durban. I'm the youngest of 4 children and I'm the second chartered accountant in my family. My sister also became a chartered accountant and grew up in a very small neighborhood in Durban. My parents were, led a very simple life. My dad was a factory worker and my mum was a machinist. And they played quite a huge role in my life as real role models, the first role models that I really had. I remember being quite young, about 6 or 7 years old, when my parents decided that they were going to resign from their jobs as factory workers and open their own clothing factory. And that was probably my first experience or exposure to business. And so when I describe myself, I always say that I grew up in a clothing factory because after school every day we would go to the clothing factory and I learned to work on the various machines, and then I learned how finance and accounting worked because I was involved in putting together the wages on a weekly basis, reconciling the bank account, and this was when I was about 13 or 14 years old. And so that's when I guess my love for finance and for business started, as well as a keen interest in fashion. So at one stage I did think that perhaps I would grow up to be a fashion designer. But obviously as I went through my teen years and the interest in business just continued, and I watched my dad become a very successful entrepreneur. And so that's a bit about me. Currently I have a 4.5-year-old son, and I am married to an Englishman who is a real reminder of the beauty of our country and our continent, because I get to experience the country through his eyes. I guess in my career there are many things that I'm very proud of. The first is having the opportunity to serve articles at Deloitte as a young trainee accountant back in 1997. When I walked into Deloitte back in those days, there weren't many women around. And so having that opportunity was quite a big moment for me. And then the next proud moment was, the opportunity to go and work in New York for Deloitte on secondment. I had never left home, I had never left South Africa, and therefore going and experiencing the world and experiencing different cultures and really understanding the breadth and the global stretch that Deloitte has was an amazing experience for me and a very proud moment for me. And I guess the next very proud moment was becoming partner. I was determined to be a partner before I was 30 years old, and it's something that I worked quite hard for. And so when I was appointed a partner, at the age of 29 back in 2004, that was a moment that was particularly proud, for me. And then I've had many proud moments. I enjoy complexity. I enjoy dealing with difficult technical challenges throughout my career. And so those moments when you are able to understand something, really, let it, you've got to, if the ideas need to percolate over a period of time, and it takes you a while to grasp the solution or the challenge. But when I eventually, do that, that is particularly fulfilling. So, at the end of the day, when you're signing off something that was particularly complex or difficult, when you're dealing with difficult challenges, those are proud moments for me. So all of those moments contributed to where I am today. And of course, becoming CEO of Deloitte Africa is a career highlight. And I knew it was going to be a big moment, the 1st of June this year. But I did think that, like any CEO, on the first day, there's a lot that you want to accomplish. So I was expecting a day of visiting clients and a normal day of, now chasing a budget in the new financial year. And the team actually put together an amazing celebration for me at Deloitte Africa, which was a complete surprise. But during that celebration, I really understood what being the first CEO, first female CEO meant to many people, what it meant to the average black woman, black child who can now see a female CEO and say, hold on, if she can achieve that, then I can too. So it almost forced me to take a moment to really celebrate that moment and celebrate the fact that many women look up to me as a role model. And so that makes me feel particularly proud as well. So for any student who is finishing university and wanting to do their training contract, choosing the firm where you serve your articles is critically important. I think that one of the most important things that you would have to consider is, what is the purpose of the organization? What are the values of that organization? Does the purpose and the values of the organization align to my personal values and my personal purpose in life? And so for me, culture of an organization is critically important. You want to choose a firm where you believe that you can be the best that you can be. And so creating an environment and a culture where our people can be the best version of themselves is critically important. And so I think that needs to factor into making that decision. There are other things, and I think that you will get great experience looking at the client base of the organization, the types of clients that the organization has, and really just, what do you want for your future career, and how will this firm help you in the development of self and in your career going forward. I view a challenge as an opportunity to develop. And whenever I'm faced with a challenge or a complex situation, it is very easy to be overwhelmed and to be anxious. What I generally try to do is just slow things down, allow myself the time to think, and to really grapple with the problem. And to realize that, no problem is easy to solve, but in solving for the problem, it does it does mean that you develop as an individual. And so I've always gravitated towards finding challenges, right? And what I do to overcome challenges or to deal with complexity, I find some time to think about it. I consult as much as I need to. And then I've been blessed with the opportunity to have a number of mentors and coaches, people who have done it before. And so I often look to advice for them. But often I like just researching the problem, thinking about it myself, and then finding a solution, and then bouncing my solutions off others who may have seen something before. And at the end of the day, I really believe that it is, it is a sense of satisfaction when you are dealing with complexity. I have always learned more from my challenges than I have from doing the easy stuff. I learned some incredible stuff from my 4.5-year-old son. Probably the first is not to take myself too seriously. Right? My best moments are sitting on the floor with him and playing monster trucks and watching his imagination in action. And I often look at him and I think to myself, if I can take this imagination that he has and create an environment where we can use our imaginations as individuals, as leaders, to solve for some of the challenges that we face on the continent, that for me is the silver bullet. And so it is about creating that space to imagine, and watching him is a true inspiration for me. The other leadership lesson from him in particular is my need to do more. I look at him and I think about some of the challenges that the continent is facing, some of the challenges that the world is facing. For example, climate change. One of probably the biggest pandemic of our lives. And we are the last generation who has the ability to actually make a change. And so when I look at him, I think I have a responsibility here to solve for this and to have a bigger voice insofar as climate change, sustainability, ESG is concerned. So I think probably the first person that I would have to take out is the president of our country, right? I think that government has such an important role to play, as does the private sector. And so I would want to engage more around how the private sector and government can work together to deal with some of the challenges that we are dealing with. So that's probably the first person. And then, sometimes I think we need to hear from people on the ground. So, your local minister of a church working in a small rural settlement, I would want to hear from that person as to exactly what is happening on the ground, and how we as a firm can actually assist in that. And then the third, and it comes back to not taking ourselves too seriously. Perhaps it's some comedian. We recently had Riyad Musa at our Deloitte Africa Leadership Summit, and he was a hoot. But I think we constantly need that reminder not to take ourselves too seriously. So I think every single person in our organization brings something special. I think what I bring is the opportunity to really, as an organization, get behind a purpose. So one of my visions is, and I talk about this often in the organization, is to be an organization that is underpinned by purpose beyond profit. And each one of those words is critically important. It is purpose beyond profit, not before profit. And I do believe that purpose and profit can coexist, that they are not mutually exclusive. Nowadays, everyone wants to work for an organization that is purpose-led. And this generation wants to join an organization where at its core is the ability to do something or to do good. And that's what purpose for me is. And then, I don't believe that you can be purposeful or purpose-led if you're not profitable. And that's why the two need to coexist. So this concept of, having 7,000 people in Deloitte Africa rally behind purpose beyond profit is something that I think that is special. And everyone is rallying behind it. And hopefully that is my contribution to the firm. That will be part of my legacy.